get our life in order. Every time we do this, it's always a new challenge and an exciting one. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy Saturday to join us. We're laid back, just fun, no problem. If you have a question, just jump in, ask your questions. We're here to help you learn this process. I'm Theresa, just in case there's anybody that didn't know that. I've been in real estate now for 21 years. I love, 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 love it. I eat, sleep, and breathe real estate. I really can't imagine doing anything else. I retired from nursing after 32 years, and by far, this is the most fun that I've had. I have an amazing team that you are going to meet shortly. Not everyone is here, but the people that are here have some super exciting things that they want to share with you. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the market today. The market is simply bananas. I can't even put it in a different way. It's bananas because it's a seller's market, but as a buyer, I don't want you to be alarmed because it's okay. We're going to show you what you can do so that you can win the bid in a multiple offer situation. Because buying in a seller's market is crazy. If you take a look at this slide, just from 2016 to 2021, the median home prices have increased 21%. Back in the day, 2016 and before, the average home price, it could have been around $500,000, but now it's at least $740,000. You can find something less expensive, but you have to search for it. You have to be willing to offer certain things and negotiate with the sellers. That's where the team comes in. And if you're willing to do that, then we can find you a great home.
Hi there. As Theresa said, my name is Claudia Harrison. I am a real estate agent, obviously, and I have been in the real estate market now for a little over 3 years. It's been different. It's like learning a whole new language. But it's very, very interesting, very fulfilling, especially when you can help people purchase their homes, or sell their homes. The look of gratification on their face just can't be beat. So it's a great career to have. The reason I got into real estate is because I retired from working in the corporate world. I had been working there for all total about 41 years. And it was time for me to sit down, I thought. But then once I sat down, I said, no, this is not time for me to sit down. It's time for me to get busy. So I went ahead and got into the real estate market. I'm looking forward to working with people. I enjoy, in my hobbies in the spare time are cooking, traveling, and singing in my church choir. Before, when we had choirs, thanks to COVID, it's been a while. But I'm just looking forward to learning more about the real estate market and helping more people achieve their home dreams. So thank you for being here. We're going to go over 7.
Claudia.
Okay, go right. Okay, I'll go ahead. You know, because you're here, you know that there are many reasons to buy a home. There are so many advantages, but here are a few that we've listed so that you can kind of reflect on those. Obviously, there are tax benefits. You know that every year you can write off the interest on your mortgage. So it's a huge savings when you, and when you purchase a home, the majority of your money in the first few years does go to interest. Very little goes to principal. So that is a tax benefit that you can write that interest off. Homes appreciate also every year. So far, as Theresa just showed you in that slide, homes have gone up in value. So it's guaranteed, at least while we're in the seller's market, while we're in the market that we're in, that you will earn money. Your home will be worth more as the years go by than more than what you paid for it. So that's great. And that earned money is called equity. That's something that you can borrow against your home in case of an emergency, in case you just need some extra cash. You may have paid $500,000 for your house. In a couple of years, it'll be worth $525,000. That $25,000 is equity that you've earned in your house. There are savings involved in purchasing a home. You are You are paying into your home. The savings advantages are escaping me right now, but there are savings. There are savings. Someone can jump in if they want and mention the savings in purchasing a home. And it's silly. I have two properties and can't think of the savings that I have. Other than
one thing is that, for example, you are not paying the landlord's mortgage. That money is going into your property, giving you that equity and creating that savings that you're talking about.
Thank you, Theresa. That's why you get the big bucks. Okay. Okay. And predictability, as we were talking about, the market is on an upward trend right now, so we can kind of predict the growth, the money growth that you're going to accumulate while owning property. It's predictable, and you know that your monthly note is going to stay the same. You don't have to worry about a landlord going up on your rent unexpectedly. If you have a fixed rate, which is what we highly recommend, your mortgage is going to stay the same throughout the life of the loan. It also gives you freedom. Owning a home gives you freedom. If you want to if you want to hang a picture on a wall, get the hammer out and start hanging. If you want to paint the walls, take out a wall, add on a room, you have the freedom to do that because you own this property. And it's pride in ownership too. It's great when you don't have to rent something, but you can say, this is what I've achieved. This is what I have done on my own. And that freedom is esteem building. It's really good. And it's stability. Homes are going to be here. Homes are not going anywhere. If anything, we need more homes. So you will be stable. Mm-hmm. 7 reasons to work with a realtor. A realtor will treat you with ethical treatment. We have a fiduciary duty to treat you with respect, to respect your privacy, and be courteous and honest. And these are the things that you will get from a good real estate agent. And real estate agent will guide you through the process. We will be there to answer any questions that you might have with regards to the steps in order to close escrow and complete the transaction. Mm-hmm. We will give you objective information and opinions. We will not make those opinions for you, but we will give you the choices that you need in order to make informed and good opinions that fit your particular situation. We have expanded search power. We have different programs on our computers, and we have access to different systems that we can look into to answer any questions that you have, to look for more homes that would be beneficial to you or would meet your needs. So we have a vast search power. Mm-hmm. And we have negotiation knowledge. We know the lingo. We know what to say to the seller's agent. We know how to make your propositions look better to buyers or better to sellers. We know how to finagle the language in real estate. We have up-to-date experience. We are constantly going to classes, taking online classes, going to seminars and what have you, in order to stay on top of what's going on in the real estate market. Mm-hmm. And we are your rock during emotional moments. Buying a piece of property is probably the most expensive thing that you'll do in your lifetime. And we'll be there to answer any questions for you. Okay, here are the basics. The questions to ask when you're choosing a realtor. Number 1, how long have you been in residential real estate? Do you have any designations or certifications? You'll notice that when Theresa clicked on her name, she had the alphabet city after her name. That's because she has taken a lot of classes. She's devoted to this, and in doing so, she has a lot of designations and certifications, which is very impressive and very beneficial. It'll work for you. Mm-hmm. How will you communicate with me about the progress of my transaction? We will communicate with you whenever you need us. You can call us, you can text us, and we will be there to answer questions for you. If we don't answer questions, we can find someone who will have the answer, but we will keep in touch with you. You can also ask, do you have a reference of past clients? Some of us have, if you go on Zillow, and for instance, and look at Theresa's name, you'll see a lot of referrals after her name. And this is just good, just to give you a sense of how the realtor has worked with other clients in the past, so you can get a feel for how they'll work with you. Mm-hmm. Vocabulary, agency, and agency relationships. One agent can be either a buyer's representative or a seller's representative, depending on obviously the need of the client. If they're buying, I'll be a buyer's representative. If you're selling, I'll be your seller's representative. On occasion, this realtor can have both representation, and that's called dual agency. And that doesn't come up very often, but it can come up. And in that case, we would be representing both. And you would be fully aware of that. And a buyer broker agreement, what it is and why you should sign it. Basically, it's just a contract saying that I am going to represent you as an agent. You are my client. We are in agreement with one another. I can answer questions on, I represent you for the most part. It's it's one step lower than like a lawyer-client relationship. But what it says is that you agree to let me or let us represent you as an agent. How to prepare for house hunting. Know that there is no right time to buy. When you're ready to buy, that is the right time. Don't wait for, it's not advisable to wait for this or wait for that, because you'll end up waiting and time will have just passed by. Don't ask for too many opinions. Everyone has an opinion. And the only opinions that really matter are your opinions, what you want, what you prefer. So, focus on yourself, focus on your gut, and just try not to get too terribly many opinions. You'll go crazy. Except the fact that no house is ever perfect unless you have $1 million and are going to buy a $1 million home. And even then it may not be perfect. It may not have be in the right location. The bottom line is you want to get into a property. The bottom line is you want to be a homeowner. And that's when your equity will start growing. That's when you'll have leverage. Just get in the game. That's the main thing that you have to do. And don't be a killer negotiator. These houses now, as Theresa was saying, they'll ask $400,000 for a house, and by the time it's sold, someone will have paid $500,000 for it. So don't try to go in there lowball. Well, they want $400. I'm just going to offer $380 and see what happens. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, they won't even look at your offer, because they will have had so many others that are at asking, if not over. And plan ahead. Get pre-approved first. And that's what Joe Soto is going to speak on later on. But it's important. Don't go out there looking for houses and say, I want this house. It costs $500,000 and a mortgage person is only going to loan you $450,000. You will have wasted everyone's time. Get pre-approved first to know what your buying power is. How to prepare to buy a home. Work with your lender. Talk to Joe, talk to Alicia, talk to your lender, and be honest with them, be upfront. They need all of this information in order to get you the best loan. Be ready to move. Don't wait until you're in escrow and say, well, I better find somewhere where I'm gonna live next. No. Make plans, get your boxes ready, plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute, and select where you want to live. Don't just say, okay, I'm going to move and I'm not sure where yet, but I'm going to move. Before you know it, your house will be in escrow and you don't have anywhere to go. You don't even know where you're going to go. So put pen to paper and have a plan, have a strategic plan. It may not, stay that way, but at least you'll have something to go on. You may need a plan B and a plan C, but at least have a plan A. And your worksheet, track your budget. Don't overextend yourself. Make sure that when your house note is still going to allow you to pay your car note, pay your student loans, pay any other debts that you have. Don't be house poor. You may be able to, like I said, you may be able to afford the mortgage, but then you won't be able to buy groceries. And also realize that when you buy a house, your utilities and everything are going to go up. It's factor all of that in on your worksheet so that you know that you can afford what you're looking for. What to know about credit scores. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm going to let Joe Soto cover that on his section. Thank you, Joe. And with that, thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it. I'm so glad that you all are here. I'm going to turn it over to my dear friend and coworker, Glennis Selden.
Thanks, Claudia.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Glennis. I am Theresa Miller's daughter. I am one of the co-founders because I'm her daughter, but I've been in real estate now I've had my license since 2012, but I've been practicing real estate since 2017, right around the time that my mom retired. She kind of recruited me to come back in and said, hey, come on, we're about to do this. So I've been in real estate since then. And it's been going good. I like it. It has its ups, it has its down. As in anything, you just have to stick it out and it will get better. So I am, can you go to my next slide, please? I'm going to talk about the property. So now that you guys have already done what Claudia said, the basics, finding a realtor, getting everything, all your ducks in line and starting to save money. Now it's time to reach out to Joe and get a pre-approval. And once we get that pre-approval, now it's time to really get out there and start looking for the property that you want. So you want to sit down and define that dream home. What is it that you actually are looking for? Now, you want to have a realistic goal and then your perfect storm home. Because as a first-time home buyer, a lot of times we get into we need everything on our checklist for our very first home. And you're going to have at least 2 or 3 homes throughout the whole process. So that first home is, like Claudia said, you want to get into buying property, period. So find that home that marks everything off your list, that checks all the boxes. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many square footage are you looking for? The neighborhood that you're looking for. Do you have kids? If you have kids, do you want your kids to go to the schools that's in that neighborhood? Is it safe? Do you like it? Drive around at nighttime to see how the area is, drive around in the daytime, all hours of the day. You really want to see how that property is, how that neighborhood is, how the community is. Are there things close by like markets and shopping centers that is super important to you? So all of those things come into factor when you're trying to find the property by your home. A lot of first-time home buyers do go the condo or townhome route. I went the condo route and I got my first home, and you have to be prepared for an HOA. You have to be prepared for the storage. A lot of time in condos, they don't have a super huge storage. So if storage is something that you want, then make sure you put that on your list. You want to check out the outdoor space. What does it offer? What are the amenities that you offer? How much is the association fee? So for example, my homeowners, my HOA fees is $320. So in my opinion, that's a lot. $320 for a pool, that's too much in my opinion. But I didn't do this part of the research when I bought my home. I was just so excited to be a homeowner that I was just like, okay, this is nice. This is cute. I like it. Put my offer in and then go. Like I didn't even check about the laundry room. I didn't see if I wanted. Now I wish I had a washer and dryer in my unit and I could put it in there. But these are things that you want to keep in mind when buying a home. You want to ask about if that property is FHA approved. And we run into a lot of those when looking for a condo, because FHA requirements, they're different for a lot of the homes, and a lot of the communities don't want to do whatever it is that they have to do, the paperwork, fill it out so that their condo could be FHA approved. And so a lot of first-time home buyers who go that route miss out on really good homes and condos because they're not FHA approved. So we want to make sure that they're FHA approved before we go look for the home, if that is what type of loan you have. How many owner occupied units are in the property is a very good question to ask your agent, because it's a difference when majority of the occupants are homeowners because they have more of a pride in taking care of the property versus renters. A lot of times renters don't really care, and not all renters, but some renters don't care. It may be messy. Their patio may not be as clean. Their balcony may not be as clean. Like, it's a difference. So you want to make sure that there's more owner occupied than there are renters at that property. You want to ask about any covenants, any restrictions, any bylaws that is restricting the buyers or anything that you should know that we should tell the lenders going into it. For example, one time our reserves, I did a deal and the reserves were short, but we didn't know that until almost to the very end, which meant that my buyer now had to come with an additional 5% down payment because the HOA was like, well, we just operate on a reserved budget. That's just how it is. We're not doing anything. So anybody who wants to live in this property pretty much have to put down a higher down payment to cover that little gap, because lenders is tricky. I'm gonna leave that for Joe, but it is tricky. It's harder for you to get a home when the reserves are lower. Are there any pending litigations, any special assessments? Special assessments are things that the property would do that the homeowner would pay for. So if my condo wants to redo all of our balconies or something and change something on our property, we'll be paying an additional whatever it is. So let's say $75. I did some research, and I think in 2015 or 14, my condo did redo all the balconies and change the doors and change a lot of the outside of the property. And so the homeowners had to pay, on top of the $320, an additional $75 a month. And it's usually for a certain amount of time. Let's just say it could be a couple of months, it could be a year. It varies until they reach that goal or that budget or that number that they needed for that special assessment. And then how are the board members selected and how long is their term? So board members are selected by the homeowners pretty much. And you really want to be involved in that process. If not, then you get a really crappy president. And I have one of those. And she's not the greatest. She doesn't communicate. She can barely walk, but they just change everything all the time. And they're not very nice. So you really want to take a look into that. Like, how are the board members? Some units or complex will be generous enough to let you know about those type of things. And then sometimes it's just, you just find out when you get there. If buying the property and you can't get in touch with the HOA person, or they're not communicating back and forth with you, that could be like a telltale, even when buying the property, because you do have to communicate with them and find out things like, where's the parking space? Where's my mailbox? How do we do all these things? So keep that in mind when it comes to that. I forgot to talk about the loan limits with FHA. The loan limits with FHA, in LA County, it's higher. I want to say, is it up to, what is it, 800 or 700, Joe?
822.
822 now. And then Riverside County, are we in fives yet?
548.
548.
577. Sorry, 577.
Okay, because it was a minute before we could even get it's with FHA, the loan limit. So we have to keep that in mind when you're buying a house as well. So if you're in LA County, you could be approved for maybe $600,000. But when you come to Riverside County, you can only go up to the 582. I think that's what Joe just said. And then if you want that home, I'm going to let Claudia talk about this and share an experience, because I know she just did a deal and her buyers wanted that home, but it was the loan. They was at the loan limit. So Claudia, can you share really quickly how people could still buy a home even though they reached that loan limit?
Absolutely. When my buyer initially was ready to purchase, she went ahead and spoke to the lender, and the lender approved her loan, her mortgage. However, it was for a different county. She ended up buying a home in a different county than what the mortgage was set up for. So when we realized that situation, we had to redo her mortgage, and come to find out, if she wanted to buy in Corona, she was going to have to come up with an additional, I forget the amount of money, but it was something like an additional $12,000 or $13,000. Luckily, she was able to, she had reserves, and she says, I can do that. And so she was able to go ahead and make up that difference, and she's in her Corona home now. So Glennis, that's an excellent point. Be sure to, once you find your home, make sure you find out the limits. If it's in a different city, in a different county, make sure you run that past the mortgage loan, the mortgage lender, before you go ahead and go forward, because it may cost you money. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Claudia. That is true. So a lot of times first time home buyers, they are set on a certain area and then they just move to another area. So that's why it's important to know about the loan limits, because they'll be like, oh, I want to live in Carson. And then we go shopping in Carson, they see the prices of the homes aren't where they want them to be, or what they can get for that limit that they're in is not what they want. So then we come to the IE and you can still get more bang for your buck, but now your budget is smaller. So keep that in mind when shopping for a home. Also about the property, you have to choose a home inspector. Now we do have contractors we have people that we have on staff, not on staff, but on our team that we can reach out to and get the home inspection, because a lot of times people don't know who to choose for the home inspection. And since we're real estate professionals, we already have that in line and we can offer that, but you are more than welcome to find your own home inspector. I did a deal where my client wanted to use a Black home inspector and he found his own home inspector and we went on with the deal. So we do that for you, but you are welcome to find it yourself. And that is something that you pay for out of pocket. It's an upfront cost. It's $350. You pay it to the home inspector. And then there's different package levels that you can get as well. Will the home be sold as is, or will the seller be paying for repairs? Right now in this market, it is a seller's market. So it's very challenging to get sellers to pay for anything right now. You pretty much are paying the seller for their home. So a lot of the homes are being sold as is. And if they are going to do, let's say they're nice and generous, they may offer a credit for that repair. And when they offer that credit, they're not necessarily giving you the cash. They're just giving you the credit towards that. So the last deal, I went out on a limb and asked for $5,000 in credit, and they ended up coming back with $2,500 in credit. But then our appraisal came back lower than what it was, and so we ended up just taking the shorter appraisals, like $5,000 less than what we offered. So we went that route, and they took our credit away, which is fine. But that's an option that sellers do as well. So they'll either fix it, sell it as is, or they'll give you money towards your closing costs. They'll give you a credit to pay for those repairs. Also, the appraisal process is important when buying your property. It costs around $400 to $600, depending on, I guess, the home and the size of the home, if I'm not mistaken. And that is paid upfront by the buyer. You pay that with the lender. So if that is something that you want to, that cost is not quite what you have in the beginning, I would definitely say talk to the lender and see how you guys could work that out. Maybe you can bring it towards the end, the closing costs. So I personally pay for my appraisal at closing costs instead of at the front up front. And I did my home inspection up front because that's a different type of cost. Property taxes are included when buying your property. Pay attention to the property taxes, and you may have a supplemental tax. So the property taxes, they base it off of when you are buying that home. So when a new person comes in and they buy a home in that area, the property taxes, they redo and they send it out. And so sometimes you have another bill and it could be higher and additional, because if I'm not mistaken, that's like you'll get that bill after you close with that additional extra because they didn't do the tax right. And then once they close, something like that. I'm just running my mouth right now, but I believe that's how it goes.
You're good. It's a supplemental tax that they assess up to a certain point. So the lenders will hold back the money, or title holds back a certain amount of money. But when June, July comes, when it's time to do the assessment and they do the real calculations, you could end up with a tiny supplemental bill. So that's why you have to be aware that it is a possibility that you could end up paying a little more. Most of the time, and Joel answered this part, is that if it's impounded, they've already put aside some money to pay that supplement. Right, Joe?
That is correct. Yeah, the supplemental is basically the difference between the previous owner's value and your value. So they've been in the house a long time and the value is 600 and you're buying it for 700. That $100,000 difference, basically the county wants their money for that $100,000 difference in value. So you're going to get a bill. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Yes, that's true, because I got one. And I was like,
everybody gets one.
Everyone gets one.
Everybody gets one.
They do get one, and my buyers they send me a picture like, what is this? I'm like, this is normal. This is how it is. And I go through the process. But I did the same thing. I'm like, what is this? I thought my account was impounded. But yes, so if it is impounded, like my mom said, you don't pay that actual bill, but they're just showing you, hey, this is what it was. So be aware, don't be alarmed when you see that as well. The next slide. Oh, that's it. That's it for me. I thought I had another one. Okay. Was I supposed to bring somebody else up, Linda?
It's fine. I'll bring myself.
No, just Taylor. Okay.
Taylor,
Okay, I am going to pass it on to the amazing Taylor. I'm so happy she's on the team. We're the younger crew in the bunch. Okay. We're the new era. People are buying. We're trying to get our generation to buy homes now in our tax bracket. So this is, she's doing great. She was, top producer of the year in her first year coming into the business. And she brings a lot to the table, very knowledgeable, and she's beautiful. So take it away, Taylor.
Thank you. That was so sweet. Wow, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I feel like that was like everything, but yes, I've been licensed since 2018. Crazy story. I used to work at Bank of America in mortgage fraud, actually, and I hated it because I am not a cubicle person. I need to be out. I need to talk to people. And so I had the opportunity basically to leave my job, and I did. I just kind of said, this is my moment. And I happened to meet Theresa at the gym in Lakewood, and my fiance at the time, we kind of just heard her talking, and he's like looking at me like, you gonna go say something? So I'm like, okay, I'm going. So after that, like, we've been inseparable. I've been a part of the family. And she helped me study, and then she told me, okay, go take your test. And she told me the date, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna take the test, and we're just gonna see what happens. And I passed, and so it's been great ever since. So thank you for that intro, Glennis. I feel loved. And so we're going to get into it. Well, before actually we get into it, I want to show you guys an example of this addendum that a buyer included in their offer. And Glennis and Claudia mentioned to you guys that it is a seller's market. So we have to get creative with the things that we're offering. Not saying you have to give up your firstborn, but this is really funny. So I just wanted to share this. So one of the first thing that it says is buyers shall pay for 1 year's Netflix subscription for sellers. Okay, that is cool. Who doesn't want free Netflix, right? I use somebody's, so okay. Buyers shall pay up to $300 toward professional car detailing of sellers' vehicles. That is awesome. Buyers share name firstborn child after either of the sellers. Buyers to pay for professional house cleaning of sellers' future residents. That's nice. Buyers shall hire a taco truck to feed up to 30 people to assist in the seller's moving party. Maximum $500 expense, which shall include carne asada, al pastor, chicken tacos, up to 3 flavors of aguas frescas, green and red sauces, rice and beans, no alcoholic beverages, as buyer does not have a liquor's license. They cannot be held responsible for anyone's actions if intoxicated. That was smart to put that in there. Got to protect yourself. And for Pete's sake, please accept our offer that is $50,000 above asking price so that we may have a home. So clearly people are getting extremely creative out there so that they can get their offer accepted. But we're going to go over some more realistic things that you can put in your offer. And then if you want to get a little bit more creative like that, totally up to you. Just don't be spending your money before you close. So anyway, in the purchase agreement, right? This is where you kind of got to put your emotions aside and put your money where your mouth is. One of the things that we used to be able to add into our offers is a buyer letter and photo. Unfortunately, we are not able to do that anymore so that we don't violate any fair housing laws. We don't want anybody to pick someone's offer because of the color of their skin or because they submitted a photo on Easter Sunday in front of church and now they know their religion. We don't want any of those issues. So we as your realtor do kind of, smooth things over, write up something nice about you just so that the seller knows that you are good people and they should be honored to be in a transaction with you. So we try to take care of that on that end, but we are not able to include those things anymore. But your earnest money deposit. So we recommend that you give $10,000 or more, as much as you can. I mean, as much as you're comfortable with. Obviously, the more is better. But this is basically the deposit that you put at the open of escrow to let the seller know that, hey, I really, really want this house so much so I'm going to allow you to hold this chunk of money ahead of time before we close escrow, in case something happens down the line. But I think that's a pretty huge statement, right? Everybody wants to hold on to their money until they know everything is legit, but you're willing to let them hold on to that until you close. So that's awesome. I mean, pretty huge to sellers. So then you have your contingency periods. The shorter is better. So Joe is really, really awesome at allowing us to do short contingency or escrow periods. So we always call Joe like, hey, can we do 21 days? I think somebody's done a 15-day one, right? That's pretty cool. So the seller wants the money as fast as they possibly can get it, right? So if you can shorten that escrow period, that's awesome. That's something that is very favorable to them. The appraisal contingency, you can do 7 days. So if you have a shorter escrow period, you can shorten that appraisal time frame. So you have to get that appraisal in so that you know how much your home is worth and what you'll be paying for it, basically. Home inspection. This is your time to do all of your inspections, your termite, your buyer's inspection, so that you know exactly, the condition of the home and what you're getting yourself into. And so that's another part of the deal that you can kind of shorten the time frame as well, so that the buyer ultimately the seller can get their money quicker. And then the loan contingency, of course, as well. You could do 14 or 21 days. Then we have home warranty. So the seller or the buyer can pay for this. This is important because this is basically covers like your appliances, your HVAC, your stoves, refrigerators, things like that. Those are important. I kid you not, I actually had one of my friends, I helped him purchase a house, and the day he took possession, the water heater busted. And so he's looking at me and I'm looking at him like, I'm sorry, but we had home warranty, of course. So it was no big deal. Got it taken care of. He got a new water heater, but we want to make sure that that's in there. So I think that's about $500. If you're comfortable with paying for that, take care of it so that the seller doesn't see another something they have to pay for. Same thing with termite. So termite is required for VA loans, but for the other ones, you can decide whether or not you want to pay for that yourself. I mean, I recommend that you get the inspection regardless, but it's something that you don't have to ask the seller for. So those are some ways that you can get creative to make your offer stand out above everyone else's. Of course, your purchase price as well is really, what's going to grab them. So then we have the escrow company. So the escrow company is like the liaison between the buyer and the seller's agents, because that's who they're in contact with. But that's the company that's going to hold your earnest money deposit and any other funds that you're wiring into it, so that the seller does not have your information, none of your financial stuff or anything like that. And technically, the money's not in their hands yet until everything is signed, sealed, and delivered. So the escrow company is, that unbiased party that takes care of all of that stuff. So we will provide that contact to you. The other thing is when you're wiring your funds to the escrow company, we always recommend that you contact the escrow company before you tell the banker to wire the funds. That way, you know that you're wiring it to the correct account. You want to verify that account number that you get through email to make sure that some hacker isn't in there and figures out that you're trying to buy a house and they try to give you some instructions that's going to go to their account, in which case you'll lose your money. So we don't want that to happen. Protect yourself, always verify. Then you have the title company. So this is where you'll get your title insurance. This basically makes sure that that the title is free and clear of any clouds. There's no issues, there's no errors. The previous owner's wife who passed away, sister, couldn't claim that, they have ownership in the home and collect your money or not want to sell or whatever. Basically, just make sure that all of that is taken care of. So that is important to have as well. And then seller's disclosure. So these are given to the buyer during the first week of opening escrow. And we'll just make sure that we have all of the pertinent facts about the home, HOA documents, transfer disclosure, everything. You'll have those when you'll get those in the beginning during your contingency period, so that you know what you're getting yourself into. Homeowners insurance. So I'm going to call on my friend Linda to talk about homeowners insurance, but this is a bank requirement. It basically protects the home, and you want to make sure that you have your personal items protected as well. So you'll make sure that you contact your rep, make sure you have all of that, your policy is big enough basically to cover that. But the basic insurance is for the home itself. But Linda, if you don't mind saying a few things.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Taylor. Enjoyed you. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Linda. I've been in the real estate business about 16 years. I just got back into the game, being a little more active now. And I was going to tell you a little bit about the homeowners insurance. And with homeowners insurance, you insure your home because this is one of the biggest investments that you would purchase in your lifetime. And by having this homeowners insurance, it will cover theft, fire, and the homeowners insurance is also known as hazard insurance. And most, like Taylor was saying, most of the mortgage company require that you have it. And once they require that you have it, because as long as their name is on the insurance, they are half owner of your home. But once it's paid off, you still need to keep your insurance in place because if something were to happen, you want to be able to rebuild your home. You want to make sure your personal property can be restored because homeowners insurance also covers your personal property. That's all the things that you bought inside your home, your couches, beds, even the toilets and all the cabinets and all of that's considered personal property. And a lot of people think, well, my home is paid off. I don't need to have homeowners insurance anymore. But you would like to always have your home covered because if something were to happen, you want your home rebuilt, you want everything put back in place. And then you also want to be able to cover anything that will happen in your home. And the other thing about the homeowners insurance, um, it doesn't include the California earthquake insurance. A lot of people think the earthquake insurance goes with the homeowners insurance. If you purchase homeowners insurance, earthquake insurance is not included, flood insurance is not included, or neither. So the flood insurance is not covered. Everything is done separately. If you need a flood policy, you would have to ask for it separately. If you need a CEA policy, you have to ask for it separately. And that's just to protect your home from earthquake. If you do not have your California earthquake policy, earthquake come, the homeowner's insurance will not cover your home. You will be out of luck because your homeowner's policy only cover theft, fire, or anything of that nature. Um, and so let me see if anything else I missed. Let's see. Eh, So that's basically about it. You just need to make sure you take care of the biggest investment of your life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially about the earthquake insurance, because we get earthquakes. I mean, granted, we haven't had one that's destroyed everybody's property, but you never know. I don't know, right?
Right. So a lot of time people will get it along with their policies, with their homeowners, with their insurance, because they have to go together. Whatever company you use for your homeowners insurance, you would have to get the California earthquake policy through that insurance company, and it'll only take care of it if you have the separate earthquake insurance.
Right. And you can also bundle those insurances with your car insurance company. So I know you've heard Flo from Progressive talk about, bundling. Yep, Theresa.
Another thing that I just learned that I didn't know, and I just learned this, is regarding the flood insurance.
Mhm.
If you're buying a condo or own your own or something that's a community type property, in addition to having the coverage for your own little unit,
Right.
the lenders want the entire building covered by the HOA. Now, that makes sense. I never really thought of it in that manner until now I have a deal. We're in the transaction where we almost were not able to close because the building wasn't covered. So that goes back to what Glenn has said about checking with the HOA, making sure that they have the proper documents that they need.
Right.
Had the lender not asked for that, we would not have known it. But we have an excellent lender, the Joe Soto team, who checks everything and makes sure that our buyers are safe. So that's my 2 cents on insurance.
All right. Thank you.
Right. All right, cool. So after we've checked all of those boxes and made sure we had all our insurances and coverages and inspections and all that stuff, we're headed toward the end of escrow where you'll get your loan docs. Then we'll get the buyers will receive your clear to close from the lender. Then they'll meet with the notary to sign the loan docs. Buyers will wire final funds to escrow and making sure that they verify that account before they do. And then funding will usually occur the next day after signing. You'll do your final walkthrough to make sure the property is, in the condition you expect to receive it in. If you had any repairs done, this will be the time where you want to make sure that those repairs were actually taken care of. And then after we do that, we'll get the confirmation of recording, and then you get to receive your keys. And we like to take a picture. We do a video review actually, so that we can feature you on our page and our website and just kind of celebrate with you. So it's pretty awesome. So I'm going to bring Dee on. I love Dee. Hi, Dee.
Hello.
I don't know if you know, well, we'll talk about it later, but you hold a special place in my heart. I have to tell you about it. But Dee's going to talk to us about the move-in now that you've received your keys. And yeah.
All righty. Good afternoon. I think we're past morning. My name is Theresa. We call me Dee. Most people can't say my name. Correct. But I've been a realtor I've had my license for about 7 years, a little over 7 years. But working, I've been busy and hadn't really been active, but now I'm a realtor. I have a real client. We're closing escrow this week. It is exciting. You know, you seeing the process, but actually experiencing it is different, and it's great. And I can concur with everything the other team members have said about the emotional experience and all that. So, and we have a great team we work with, our broker and our loan originator, I believe that's what they call them, loan broker, has been very helpful in assisting step by step. So you're in the right place to learn some great things. I'm going to talk about the move, preparing for the move. And that's assuming that you went through all the steps and you got qualified, you met all the requirements and went through all the steps. So now you got the approval, you're ready to move. First of all, you have to reserve a truck, possibly if you don't have someone that has a truck or that you can use. And I know I've had experience before where you reserve a truck, and if you don't keep up with it, this was years ago, and you go to pick it up and it's like, oh no, the reservation wasn't good, or they gave the truck away. So do your job at making sure that your truck is available if you need a truck. I always say have a moving party so you can get people to help you, do your moving, and you can cut some costs. Feed them pizza and maybe a beer or something afterwards, but get the help you need from your environment or your friends and family. Some people choose to have a packer, depending on if you're moving at a distance. Some people have to hire someone to help them move, or so arrange all that, make your reservations and secure that. You need to do a change of address. I experienced before in moving, and if you don't change your address, you can't affect the people's mail. Some mail people are real sticklers and will not deliver their mail because they're not at that location. They're not registered for that location. So make sure you update your mailing information, not only with the post office, but even with your bill collectors or your payment people. If you have children, you may want to work on transferring their information, and set up for the new school if they're changing schools. Taking care of all that. If you're in an apartment, you need to arrange for your security deposit to be refunded. These things you don't want to leave missing. So you want to make sure you leave your place in order so you can get the most of your deposit back. These are all things you need to prepare for. Contact your utility company because you want to change, make sure you, how would I say it, in the date at your current location and to begin your utilities at the new location. Okay. Perishables. You want to, when you're heading up to that time, I know with my current client, they're like, we're trying to eat up, the food we have instead of keeping, because some people keep their freezer stocked, so you don't want to carry a whole lot of unnecessary stuff with you. So, they're like, sometimes I'm like, well, don't you want to go? No, we got stuff. We're going to take care of that. And that's smart, because sometimes when you move, it's a great experience. You want to get all new furniture. You may want to get new appliances. So you don't want to stock it with a bunch of old freezer burn food. So, eat up the food. You may want to give some things away. It's time to declutter, basically, because when you're going into a new place, it's fresh. So you want a new start. Nowadays, people are, their pets are their children. I tell my dog he's not a people, but sometimes we do treat him that way. When you have pets, and they're registered and you have their little license or whatever, some people need to arrange for that, have that changed to a different address. And as well, for pets and children, some people put them in the same category. When it's time to move, you don't need them around because they'll get in the way of your moving. So you may need to arrange to have your pets, someone take care of your pets and also your children, small children. If they're big enough to help, it's a good time to teach them this is a part of the life process in moving. And it may inspire them, as Joe was saying earlier about his daughter. They're learning the process and what goes on. But if you have small children or pets, you want to arrange for someone to take care of them. And then when it's time to move, you're ready to receive your keys and your garage door openers and stuff. And also, I want to stress you want to change your locks. So I was suggesting to my clients, we do the walkthrough, sort of look at the locks that we're going to have to change. So you know what kind of locks, and you can decide maybe you want the electronic locks or whatever. But these are things that you have to prepare for so that when you get there and ready to move, it's like, oh, I got to run out and do this. I got to run out and do that. You'll be prepared. So that's my part on the move. And now I'm going to introduce Mary. She's a sweetheart. I love her enthusiasm and, look like she jumped in with her, what they say, jumped in and started running. And I just appreciate in conversations we had with her and the team. So I'm going to introduce Mary Baptiste, our team member, to share on her part. Thank you.
I would like for you to share, because you were involved with your buyers and their move and the children and the packing and having someone keep them. So I want you to share upon that experience after you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Dee, for introducing me. My name is Mary King Batiste. I am currently still employed for Kaiser. I've been working there for 15 years now. And I had been wanting to get into real estate for years. I never thought of myself as being a salesperson, so to speak, but I do love people and I love helping people. And I felt that getting into real estate would be one of my ways of helping people. Not looking at the financial aspect. I mean, that's in it, that's real, and who doesn't want to make money? But helping people understand that they can have what they desire. And it takes time sometimes, but, encouraging them, saying, hey, you can have what you want, or it may be far-fetched or whatever, but you can actually have the house of your dream. And I can prove it through different stories, true testimonies of, what I've been through or what my children have come through and where they are today. So anyway, I like to think of myself as being a motivator, even though I don't, really think that I am one. But nevertheless, I got into real estate to help people. Now, when I finally got my first client was my son. And my son, all of my children, I have 4, were like, come on, Mom, get your license. And encouraging me, say, you're going to get your license. Come on, we're waiting on you. So no sooner than I'm trying to get myself organized, my son called me up and he said, Mom, what you doing? I told you I'm ready. So make a long story short, they fell in love with a house that I didn't want them to buy. And I'm not going to go into all of those details, but I just felt that, they needed to be somewhere else. But my daughter-in-law fell in love with this house and the square footage of this house. And it didn't matter what it took. She wanted that house. And I wanted to say, I thank God for this team. I thank God for Theresa. I thank God for Joe, because something went wrong within right at the tail end of escrow closing. And I just told him, I said, I told you Joe should have been our backup. We should have gone to them and qualified you through him. And but they insisted on going with their own lender. People, can I tell you, trust what we tell you. We've been through the school of hard knocks, so to speak, with ourselves and even with our clients. And we have a person on our team that we are affiliated with, whose track record has been proven over and over again. He knows the finance business, and he was able to get my son and my daughter-in-law qualified and approved for a loan, I think within 21 days. And, then I just rolled up my sleeves. I said, now, wait a minute, my daughter-in-law is pregnant. Her baby was born, I think, was it a week, or maybe 2 weeks after they moved into their home. So it was to the place where, sit down, you can't do anything. I took my car over to their apartment, let them pack stuff in the car, take it over to the house. And then I proceeded to go over there. I rallied my grandchildren, the older ones, together, unpack the boxes, set things here or there, depending on what room they were in. And I mean, I had them as young as 5 years old. I showed them how to fold things, and I didn't go behind him and unfold anything. Told my granddaughter, 13-year-old, put these here. I had, put the boxes in the kitchen, unpack these boxes, and we're going to start. My daughter-in-law's left-handed. And so I had her, we put everything in according to like working, as a left-hander would. So I just want to say that it's an awesome position to be in. And I think that we're doing the right thing. I think that this is a calling. And you know what? I love it. And I think all of us do love it, because we really and truly walk away when our buyers get that key in their hand with a sense of accomplishment, that we help somebody's dream come true.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, who's going to talk to us about financing. Take it away.
All right.
So Mr. Soto, I'm going to stop my share
Oh, I got to do mine.
and
Let's see if I can do it right.
I'm going to stop my share and let Mr. Soto take over. Mr. Soto is the most amazing lender in the universe. He has refinanced my own loan. He saved me $700 a month on my mortgage. My home will be paid for in 10 years. I'm super excited. He did my daughter's loan. So I highly, highly, highly recommend Mr. Joe Soto.
Okay, can you see my whole screen?
I can see your whole screen.
Even the Soto team at the bottom, cross country mortgage?
Yes.
All right. Sometimes I'm not really good at all of this technology. So we work our way. I really love doing this because I learned something new, right? Like the flood thing was a new thing. And just hearing about the process of buying a house, there's so many moving parts. And I think that's why it's really important that you have a really good realtor in your corner, because as you can see, there's a lot to juggle. And a lot of things to figure out. And when you're going through the process, it's all new and it's all scary. And I use a story of a client I had one time. He was a pediatric surgeon. So he did surgery on little babies. And he told me buying a house is the most stressful thing I've ever done. Joe's the most stressful thing I've ever done. And I was like, come on, you perform surgery on babies. There's no way. And what he said to me really resonated with me. He said, I've done that 1,000 times. I've never done this. And I was like, okay, that's a good way to put it. He's like, I just don't know and I'm not comfortable. I was like, okay. So kudos to you for spending some time to become educated on the process and to learn about all the moving pieces. And, you know, it's good to know that you have a great support system and people who can help you and guide you through the process. So you are in really, really, really good hands. I'm going to go through some slides. I will ask if you have questions. I encourage you that if you're on here and you have a question, just shout it out. You will not, if we were doing this in person, I would pick on people. I would be like, Taylor always has good questions. I'd be like, Taylor, Linda, but since we're not doing it in person, I can't pick on you like in live person. So if something comes up, just ask, right? Or just scream it out. You will not throw me off. But I'm Joe Soto, husband, father, all around good guy who happens to do loans. All of my contact info is in there. I'm surprised that Glennis and Taylor did not share all of their social media stuff, but you should follow me on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that fun stuff because it's a good time. So we're going to talk about the home loan process, right? And so we're going to talk about income, credit, and equity. That's ICE. We're going to talk about loan programs. We're going to talk about being pre-qualified versus pre-approved. And then hopefully by the end, you'll be on your way to finding a home. So loans are based on three things, right? Anytime you're looking to get qualified, it comes down to your income, it comes down to your credit, and it comes down to your equity or your down payment. So when we're looking at your income, and we'll go through each of those little pieces, right? When we look at your income, you could have a W-2 or you can be self-employed, right? So when you're W-2'd, we want to see that you have 2 years in the same line of work, right? You could have multiple jobs, but typically we want to see similar line of work. And that area can be a little bit gray, you know, but we want to see 2 years of employment. Bonus and income require a 2-year history, as well as overtime requires a 2-year history. So when I say that, let's say you start a new job and they are going to pay you a $10,000 a year bonus, but in the past, you never got a bonus. That income would not be usable until you could prove that you've been getting a bonus or overtime or commission for 2 consecutive years. Otherwise, it counts as 0. And that's a big one that a lot of lenders miss because sometimes they'll pre-approve you and let you use that income. And then turns out the underwriter tells you, no, that does not work. Cash cannot be counted as income. So I've got a lot of clients who make money under the table. They have side businesses, side hustles. They do things where cash is king. Unfortunately, when you're buying a house, Uncle Sam we only let you use or let you qualify with income that you claim to Uncle Sam. So if it's on your taxes, you can use it. I always say cash tips. If you look down here, it says cash tips. Usually servers, restaurant, anybody, hair salon, anybody who gets paid cash, you have to claim it on your taxes in order to be able to use it. Mm-hmm. If you're self-employed, so if you have your own business, most of the time you're required to show 2 years of income. So 2 years of tax returns. For example, you would have had to file 2019 and 2020 taxes as self-employed in order to use that income. If, let's say, you became self-employed in 2020 and you had the greatest year ever, you did whatever as self-employment, you sold masks and rubber gloves, right? So you had the bomb year in 2020. You were the busiest ever if that was your business in 2020. Unfortunately, if you're buying a house, you probably couldn't use any of that income because it hasn't been for 2 years. Mm-hmm. There are times when you can use 1 year of taxes, but usually you'd have to put 20% down or more in order to get away with 1 year of tax return income. Mm-hmm. But in order to use 1 year of tax return income, you have to have been self-employed for 5 years. So it can't just be, I just became self-employed, use 1 year. You'd have to be able to prove you've been self-employed for 5 years, but we're only using the last year's income to qualify you. Any questions on income, self-employed, W-2, any stuff like that situations maybe we run into or anything like that? I'm trying to think if we've had any good ones. No, we've had a lot of cash. I had a guy recently with a lot of cash, but didn't deposit it in the bank. There are programs for people who make cash, and can qualify on just their bank statements. There's alternative lending programs, but you have to put the money in the bank. So we would lose your bank statements, and you're required minimum 10% down, but the interest rates get better if you put 20% down. That's a whole different type of program. But if you got something like that, there's options for that. You just are going to require more of a down payment.
What about the person that's changing jobs? They're going from job A to job B in a different state, but it's still in the same profession. They're in the same line of work. They may be doing a different job, but it's the same. Can you use what the state that they're leaving and the state that they're coming in as the 2 years?
Yes, you can if it's the same line of work. So let's say I've got a lady right now. She works for Yogurtland. She's working for Yogurtland here. She can work for Yogurtland in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But even if she went from Yogurtland to Dairy Queen, sticking in the ice cream category, she went from area, that she'd still be okay as long as it's salary, right? Okay. Where it gets confusing sometimes is, hey, I got this new job, Joe, and they're going to give me performance bonuses every year, or they're going to give me, commissions based on what I sell. That might not be usable. But salary to salary, you're usually okay.
All right, cool.
Boop. So how about if you've been in school, trade school, college, university, nursing school, doctors, can you get a loan? And the answer to that is yes, right? So if I get this a lot with my doctors. Doctors go from school to residency where they're overworked and underpaid, right? You're working 70 hours a week, making 30 grand a year. And then all of a sudden they get a real job, right? And now they're making 150 grand a year and they want to use that income. So can you use that income? The answer is yes, you can. Again, as long as it's salary. It's not like new job, you became a partner and they're going to give you a bonus. That's not going to work. You'd have to have that for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So usually the school will lead to the job, right? Nursing school, X-ray tech school, become an electrician, right? Sometimes we have people who work for the union and they could be an apprentice at a union and then get made a foreman. And now they're making a boat ton of money, right? Longshoreman or woman. That happens. You go from bottom tier to top tier. You can use that new income as long as we can connect the dots and show where it came from. So that happens sometimes where you don't have 2 years, but all of a sudden you went from making $20 an hour to $60 an hour, right? You could still, if it's 40 hours a week, you can use that 60 hours as long as we can connect that that's going to be the future, right? Mm-hmm. So we get that a lot from school, transcripts, all of that fun stuff. Any other questions about income? Those are the biggest things that we see, right? It's the self-employed and it's school, changing jobs. The one thing I didn't add a slide in here on is COVID, which I'll touch on really quick, because if your income is impacted because of COVID, we basically have to show that your income is back to normal. So we had clients who in 2019 made good money, right? Let's say they were in the entertainment industry, right? Or hotels. And then in 2020, that was shut down. I have a client who works for AEG. He went from making 200 grand a year to making 100 grand a year because of COVID. There were no concerts. Now he's back to making 200 grand a year. We just have to show his pay stubs and that his income is back to normal. Mm-hmm. So if you have a situation like that where you're impacted by COVID, we just have to show that you're back to making what you were making pre-COVID. So it doesn't kick you out of the 2-year woods yet, even if you have something like that. I should have added a slide on that. What if COVID? Next time we will add that slide. So credit score. I love talking about credit scores. I think it's the gift and the curse. I will start by telling you whatever your app tells you on your phone is wrong. Do not believe the app. Do not believe the hype. Credit Karma, My FICO, Experian app, your B of A app, your Wells. If they tell you a number, it's wrong.
Freecreditscore.com.
Free credit, wrong. Pick it. We should name an app. It's wrong. 99% of the time, they use a different FICO model. So they say they're giving you a FICO score, but they're not giving you a FICO score. And a lot of times they're giving you a Beacon or a Vantage score, or they're using a Model 8. And a Model 8 is not used in mortgages. I believe mortgages use a Model 6. So that being said, the numbers can be skewed, especially if you have negative items on your credit, right? If you have late payments, collections, judgments, sometimes those Credit Karma don't pick up on all of those. But Bank of Joe will pick up on it every time. I will not miss a late payment. You've been late in 10 years, it will show up. I will talk to you about it. So here's what goes into your credit score. The biggest part of your credit is your payment history. Then it's your debt utilization, which I think is cut off down here, but it should say 30%, right? You can't see the 30%?
Yes.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Oh, right. Then you have credit history, length of credit history. You have your new credit, and then you have types of credit. So all of that plays into a part where your credit score can be. So the lowest it can be on a FICO model is 300. I've never seen a 300. I think I've seen like low 400s. But if you can get to 300, you are intentionally not paying anything on time. It takes a special talent to get down to 300. And it goes on FICO, again, just on the FICO model, goes as high as 850. So if you open up your app and your app says your credit score is 935, what does that mean? Wrong, because FICO only goes to 850. So talking a little bit about repairing credit, right? How do you get your credit in the best place possible? You pay down your balances. The rule of thumb on your balances is you want them below 50% of your credit limit. So if you have a $1,000 credit limit, you want that balance to stay under $500. If you have a $10,000 credit limit, you want that balance to be under $5,000. So want to get those balances down as low as possible. I will share the credit slide, Mary. Sorry, I saw the message pop up.
Question, Joe.
Yes.
As far as paying down balances, does it have to have reported for a certain amount of time for it to count? Or I don't know, like, do you have to have a low balance for, say, at least 3 months? No,
not at all. So like you could have a balance, you could have a maxed out card today, right? Like you could have a card with the $1,000 limit, $1,000 balance. You pay it off now, or you pay it down now, it will reflect in your score next month, right? What does help you is the longer you've had that card, right? The longer credit history, credit length of history, this history, that helps. But yeah, if you pay it today, it should reflect next month. Yep. Pay new collections and get a letter of deletion. So letter of deletion is like the cat's meow. If you're writing anything down, or you remember only one thing that Joe Soto says, just remember letter of deletion. So if you have a collection account on your credit, specifically medical, the best thing you can do is get a letter of deletion from that creditor. Normally what that would entail is if you owe Linda Collections, you owe her $500. You settle with Linda and pay her the whole $500. Sorry, Linda, I almost gave you 500 grand. You pay Linda you pay Linda the $500. In exchange, Linda gives you a letter of deletion, which removes that collection from your account altogether. Some creditors will do it, some creditors will not. American Express is pretty good, and medical collections are pretty good about giving you that letter of deletion, but you're probably not going to get the letter of deletion if you settle it. So if you owe Linda Collections $500 and you say, well, Linda, I'll give you $250 if you can just say it's paid. Cool, Linda will do that, but it will stay on your credit as a paid collection for 7 years versus letter of deletion, poof, it's gone. So letter of deletion is really what you want, and you want to try to get if you have collections, judgments, any of that stuff on your credit. You want to build good credit. You want to improve your mix of credit, right? You don't want to have just student loans or just department store cards or just a car. You want to have the mix of all of those. And another way to repair the credit is become an authorized user, right? So let's say you get added on to, I always use myself. I'm not old enough to be anyone's dad, but if I was your dad, right, you could say, hey, dad, do you have a credit card that you could put me on as an authorized user? And ultimately, if I added Theresa to my credit card, right, let's say I have a Visa card I've had for 20 years. Now, by adding Theresa to that card, now it's going to report on Theresa's credit, which would help her with her credit history, because dad's had that for a long time. It would be new credit. It would be types of credit. And in all likelihood, it would be debt utilization, because now I've put you on a card that I've had for a long time with a high limit, with a low balance, which will help you out. So that becoming an authorized user will help you out if you have somebody. Now, don't get put on Joe's credit card. If Joe's had some late payments, Joe just doesn't make his payments on time, or the balance is maxed out. You do not want that. You want to stay away from Joe's credit. Be like, yeah, Joe, thank you, but I do not want anything to do with that, because that will hurt your score.
Right. There was a question, if you paid off a collection, is it too late to have it deleted?
Usually, yes. Usually, once you've given them their money, it's usually too hard to have it deleted, specifically if you settled it. So if you owed 1,000 and you paid them 800, usually very hard to have them take it off, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So I would call if you have that situation where you've already paid it. Try, and you don't know, right? What's the worst they tell you? No. I would give it a shot.
That actually happened to my little sister, and she was able to get the letter because she just kind of begged. They gave it to her. So
yeah, it's very rare, and it just depends on who you talk to and what company it is.
Right.
If the medical, you have a better chance on a medical collection than anything else.
Right.
If it's like Discover Card, or if it's like the ones I see a lot is cable bills and phone bills, right? If it's Sprint, oof, good luck. You know, that's a hard one. Utility companies, you might have a shot. They may do it for you on a utility company. But yeah, the cable companies, I know that they're kind of hard. For sure. Any other questions on credit?
Well, Joe, can I just add the saying that the pen is mightier than the sword? I definitely, in my past, I had some financial issues. But one of the things I did, like this letter of deletion, is that I wrote letters. So the three credit bureaus, what is it? Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax.
Yep.
I wrote letters to them to let them know that this debt was paid, and what have you. And of course, they investigated all of those things. And so, because I wanted that stuff taken off my credit. I'm like,
yeah,
it's been on there forever. Why don't they clean it up? You know, it's paid. But I just figured, let me write a letter. So I wrote letters about this and wrote letters about that. And it cleaned up my credit report tremendously. And, you know, so it doesn't hurt to write.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to try. And,
Yeah.
and the thing with the collection agencies and these companies is, you know, they're real quick to put something on your credit, and you do have to just battle them to get the stuff taken off, right? Like you do have to be like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, you know. You do have to write letters, call, email, and just try. It doesn't hurt. Because once you get it off, it's off, you know, it changes, like you said, Mary, it changes the credit forever. So it's worth the fight. Good point. All right, now we're going to talk about down payment. So we talked about income, right? Went over the basics on your income. We went over credit and gave you some tips on that. Now, the next thing is finding your down payment. So where does the down payment come from? A couple of places that you can get it. You can get it from your savings. You can take from your 401k if you have a 401k through work, or an IRA, or any sort of retirement accounts. You can get a gift, right? So if you got a family member who can help you out with a gift, we do need to make sure that it's properly documented. Can't just be mattress money a lot of times, but you can get a gift, and you can use down payment assistance programs. So there are programs that help you with down payment assistance, but you can do all of those to try to get, the down payment to try to get the down payment. I've had a lot of clients using Robinhood accounts, right? People took their money and put it into Robinhood. You can use that account. I've had clients recently using cryptocurrency. So taking their money from Coinbase, or I did Coinbase twice, but mostly from Coinbase, where they sold their Bitcoin or they sold their Ethereum, and they use that for the down payment. You can use any sort of retirement account, Schwab, Merrill Lynch, anything like that. A lot of times, if you're pulling from a 401k, you can pull money out from a 401k without any penalty. You just have to check with the company who manages the 401k. So, you don't know what you can use unless you investigate what you can use, but anything can be used as long as it's properly documented. That's the key. As long as we properly document, we're okay.
I have a question. So if I'm going to get $10,000-$15,000 from my dad to help me with my down payment, does it have to sit in my account for a period of time, or I just have to disclose to you that I'm getting it from my father, or what?
If he has the money in his account, then he could just transfer it to you, but we would need his bank statement to verify it, right? So if you're gifting the money, right, like your dad's gifting you $10,000, if the money goes into your bank account, Claudia, then we're going to want to see your dad's bank statement to show that he had the money to give you. Right?
Okay.
Because once upon a time when the market crashed, we realized that people said they were getting gifts, but they really took out cash advances on their credit card. If you take out a cash advance on your credit card at 17, 18, 20%, that affects your ability to repay.
Absolutely.
So that's why we document it. On an FHA loan, we always have to document where the gift comes from, 100 times out of 100. We always need whoever's giving the gift to also provide their bank statement on an FHA loan. On a conventional loan, we don't have to verify it if the gift goes from your dad, right? Let's just say, using your dad as the example. If the gift goes from your dad directly to the escrow company, then we don't need your dad's bank statement. But if your dad sends the money into your bank account, I need his bank statement. So conventional loans, we try to send the money directly to escrow. FHA and VA loans, it doesn't matter where it goes because we're going to verify it anyway.
Okay.
Any government loan, we want to see where the money comes from. That makes sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Cool.
Joe, could you tell us what is GFSA?
GFSA is Golden State Finance Authority. That's a platinum program that's offered through the state of California. And then Cal HFA, which we'll go into, is another down payment assistance program. The GSFA is rarely used. Like, ever since the Cal HFA program came out, almost nobody uses this program. It's out there, but it doesn't give you as much assistance as the Cal HFA.
I see.
It gives you about 2.5% less. So almost nobody goes for this program. Like, I haven't done one of those in 6 years, something like that. It never adds up. I actually don't know who does that program, to be honest. But if you have the choice between the two, you always do CalHealth.
Okay.
Cool. So how do we determine your buying power? We calculate a thing called your debt to income ratio. And your debt to income ratio is what we use to see how much you qualify for. So for example, when we're qualifying your debt to income ratio, we look at your monthly payments, right, for the new house, plus your debts, and we divide that by your income, gives us our debt to income. So if you look there in my little example, which is over here on this screen, on a $3,000 mortgage payment, let's say you have $200 a month, your monthly debt of student loans, and you have a $500 car payment, you would have total debt of $3,700, right? New mortgage plus student loans plus car payment, $3,700 a month in debt. If your income was $8,000 a month, then you would have a 45% debt to income. It's this divided by this. On a conventional loan, you can go up to a 50% debt ratio. So I always say the easiest way to figure it out is to just double the number, right? If you can afford a $3,000 mortgage and your debts are about $700 a month, put you at $3,700. If you said, what does my income have to be? It basically has to be double this. So it would have to be double the $3,700, which is basically about $7,400 a month gross income. That's how we look. We always qualify you on the gross income, not the net, unless you're self-employed. If you're self-employed, we always use net. If you work for a company on a W-2, it's always gross. So that's what we look at. If your debt to income ratio goes, let's say, above 50, I always like to say cancel Christmas. That means your loan won't be approved. So you got to be under 50. On VA, you can go higher. On FHA, you can go higher. Every loan program is different. But again, just to give you the basic number, that's how you would calculate your debt to income ratio. So what goes into closing costs? So I always like to tell people, we talk about cash to close. And cash to close is the total amount of money that you need to buy a house, right? And so when let's say you're putting 5% down, right? 5% down on $500,000 is $25,000. Cool, that's your down payment. But in addition to that, you have closing costs. So you have lender fees, you have appraisal, title, escrow, recording, all of your closing costs. And then you have prepaids. So you're buying a house, right at closing, you start paying property taxes and homeowners insurance and interest. Those are all prepaid that you're doing, and you have to pay at closing. So part of the money that you need to close the transaction is your down payment, plus your closing costs, plus your prepaids, right? And the rule of thumb, it says it down here, is if you want to budget for your cash to close, you would say 1.5% to 2% of your sales price. So let's say on a $700,000 house, 5% down would be $35,000. And then if you're looking at 2% closing costs, that's another 14. You figure, all right, I need basically about 47,000 total. And that's just a regular, loan program. On an FHA loan, it would be a little bit less. Cash to close. On a down payment assistance program, it could be even less. On a VA, it could be zero. But again, that's just to give you an idea that the down payment is not everything. It's just the down payment. So lots of moving pieces. But when you do get pre-approved, we go over all of those numbers with you and make sure that there's no surprises. You know what you're going to get, you know what you're getting into, and you're not in over your head like somebody said earlier. You don't want to work to live. You don't want to be house poor. You don't want anybody to do that. Any questions on the closing costs?
This is good.
Cool. So what goes into a mortgage payment? So I think I get asked this a lot because people use calculators, right? They use calculators on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, all of these crazy websites. And very often they're like, I didn't think the payment was that much. So the rule of thumb is when you're looking at a mortgage payment, you have principal and interest, you have property taxes, you have homeowners insurance, you have mortgage insurance or PMI, right? All of those come into take into account the mortgage payment. So it's not just principal and interest, right? I think that's something people miss. What's cool is this kind of gives you a little cheat sheet. For every 100 grand that you're financing or purchasing, financing, taking a loan out for, it equals about $620 a month. So if you did some basic math, right, if you were looking at a $600,000 home, right, you could easily do 6 times 620 gives you $3,720 per month in monthly payment. That makes sense as far as how we did that, right? So every 100 grand, if you're looking at a $300,000 house and you multiply that times 620, that tells me that that payment's about $1,860 per month. So I've tried to keep it like break it down into small numbers for you. That way it's a little bit easier to try to calculate, right? Like, hey, I know I could afford, $2,500 a month. I could afford $5,000 a month. You can literally just use that 620 number and kind of see where you're at, which really, really helps.
That's great.
Any questions on that monthly payment breakdown? Because that's a big one. I think people see just the principal and interest, and that's not it. It's not the whole thing. Cool. So we'll touch a little bit on the different loan types and kind of what the different loans are and how they work and different requirements. Because I think Claudia mentioned, right? Like when you talk to a lot of people, you get a lot of different answers, and everybody will tell you what they did. And I will tell you that every person on this call has a different situation. And when I think I've been doing this now since 2004, so I'm going on how many years is that? 17. I've never had two situations the same, ever. Even when I do loans for the same client, if I did a loan for Mary today and I do a loan for Mary next year, her situation is going to be different. So everybody's different. So you really have to look at what your situation is and what your options are and say, this is what I can do because this is my situation. So FHA loans, there's conventional loans. I think I'm going to go, okay, good. And there's FHA loans, there's conventional loans, there's VA loans, and then there's jumbo loans, right? Each of them have different guidelines, as you can see, right? FHA, minimum down payments, 3.5%. You can get you can purchase with the 580 FICO score. Each program has different guidelines. I will tell you that the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind is the VA loan. If you do not utilize your VA loan, or if you know somebody who is not utilizing their VA loan, you're doing them a disservice. They should utilize that VA loan. It's a great benefit. They've earned it, and it will make it easier for them to get into a home 100 times out of 100. And if you talk to somebody who says, well, I was told I shouldn't use my VA loan because the market's too tough, you refer them to me, and we could tell them why that person lied to them. That person was just lazy. So going into the different loan types, pros and cons on the conventional loan. Conventional loans require as little as 3.5 or 5% down. And I will send out this PowerPoint. I'll send it to you, Theresa. You should. I changed it. It should look much prettier than last time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we've upgraded our look.
Yeah, loving it.
But I'll send it to you so everybody has a copy of it. And that way, if you want to reference any of that stuff, it's pretty easy. But conventional loans, as little as 3 or 5% down. You have different options for private mortgage insurance. The private mortgage insurance, or PMI, it can be removed once you have a certain amount of equity in the house, 20% equity in the property. Different mortgage insurance options. You can use gifts. Typically, I say conventional loans are risk-based loans, right? So lower FICO, higher rate, less down, higher rate. If you put 30% down, you're going to get a better rate than somebody who's putting 10% down. If you look at those ads that are on TV that say today's rate is 0%, or 1.99. If you read the little fine print, it says that's based on 50% down, 780 credit score, $200,000 loan, right? Like the requirements are so crazy. So conventional loans, more down, less risk. Conventional loans are a little bit more restrictive. And definitely if you have a lower credit score, usually somewhere about 680 to 700, you wind up going from conventional being a better option to FHA being a better option. So higher credit scores, typically conventional is a better option. Lower credit score, FHA tends to be a bit better option. Also, FHA allows you to put less money down in some cases, especially when you're getting up in higher priced homes. FHA will require 3.5% down versus conventional requires 5% down when you get up in a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 house. So FHA loans are not risk-based. They have more flexible guidelines. They will allow you to qualify for more. So if you qualify for 700 FHA, you may only qualify for 650, 670 on a conventional. So FHA guidelines are a little bit more flexible. The cons on that is the PMI is higher than on a conventional if you have a higher credit score. PMI is on an FHA loan for the life of the loan. So you have to refinance to get rid of the PMI on an FHA loan. You can't just get rid of it like you can on a conventional loan. And then the other big thing on FHA, which I know Glennis had mentioned earlier, was in order to get a loan for a condominium, the condominium complex has to be FHA approved. So a little bit different guidelines when it comes to condos between FHA and conventional. Any questions on conventional or FHA? Anything that maybe I missed or didn't touch on or anything like that?
Good.
By the way, I ask if you have questions just so I could take a drink. So otherwise I'm like parched. You can't see it, but it must be 100 degrees in this room that I'm in. I know that I think my daughters are trying to squeeze me out. They're trying to tell me to lose more weight because they're like, it's nice and toasty up here. FHAs. I didn't do a slide. I didn't do a slide on the VA loan because VA loan really is. You should be asking all of your clients if they've served, if they've been in the military, because it literally is cheaper than renting in most cases. So, you know, if you meet someone and you're not sure, you should always ask, right? Always ask if they've served in the military, if they've been in the National Guards, even if they're a widow of somebody who's in the military, they could be eligible for the VA loan. So you should always ask, get in the habit of asking.
Okay.
Down payment assistance programs. Down payment assistance program basically helps you with your down payment and closing costs. So basically what it is, it's a program funded by the state that would give you some money to help you with down payment and closing costs. So pros and cons to the program, right? Little to no upfront cash investment. You can get a second, and this is all for Cal HFA on this program. You can get a second mortgage to help you with your down payment. You can use it for closing costs and down payment. It's always better to buy than to rent. So I've got clients who utilized this program a couple of years ago, and now they're buying their second home, you know, instead of paying rent for all that time. And there are conventional options and FHA options available. The cons on the down payment assistance program, like I say, the government will give with one hand, they'll take with the other. So the interest rates are higher. The guidelines are more restrictive. You have a 640 minimum credit score. There's limits on income. You can't make more than a certain amount or you won't qualify for the program. There's incomes on value limits. You're also going to qualify for less house. So since the guidelines are more restrictive on a down payment assistance program, you might qualify for $500,000, but if you come in with your own down payment, you might qualify for $550,000. So the guidelines are a little bit more restrictive when you're looking at those programs. And a lot of times they take longer to close. So in this market, I think we talked a lot about the market and how competitive it is. These, we have some, I didn't sure if we did, I don't know if we did Mary's in 10 days. I think we did it somewhere between 10 and 15 days, Mary, when we did Nelson's. It was quick.
Yeah.
I remember because we picked it up on like a Sunday night, and Theresa never calls me Sunday at 8:30 p.m. She called me Sunday at 8:30 p.m. I was almost in REM sleep, but we picked that up and just went running with it quick. But typically on the down payment assistance program, they're going to take at least 45 days to close. And if you're competing with multiple offers, sometimes that can make it difficult to get the offer accepted in this market, right? In the market that we're in right now. So if you're able to come in, like I said, 401ks, gifts, own personal savings, DPA is just going to take longer. You have to have a seller who's going to give you time. So just to kind of go over some more of the guidelines. So Cal HFA, you do have to be a first-time home buyer. And we get asked a lot, what is a first-time home buyer? First-time home buyer is somebody who's not owned a home in the last 3 years. How do we know that you've not owned a home in the last 3 years? Is we check your tax returns. When we check your tax returns to see if you've claimed any mortgage interest on your tax returns in the last 3 years. So want to make sure that you haven't been a homeowner. On Cal HFA, it has to be your primary residence. You have to do a home buyer education class. Like I said, there are limits with regards to sales price, credit score, debt to income ratio, all of that stuff. You can combine it with your My Home and your Zip, which I'm going to show you how that works, as well as teacher assistance. So on the Cal HFA, you actually get a little bit more assistance if you're a teacher or somebody who works in education. So there's a little bit more of a benefit there. It's 0.5%, but hey, every little bit counts, right? Every dollar counts, as I like to say. You can't use a non-occupying co-borrower when you're doing a down payment assistance program. So it can't be like me and Taylor are buying a house together and she's going to co-sign for me, but she lives in Washington. Everybody who's on the loan has to live there, right? Can't be somebody outside. So that's a big one because that's a recent change and can't do that. So here's the income limits. You can see the income limits are super high, right? I mean, in Orange County, the family can make $211,000. Or LA, it's $158,000. Riverside, it's $153,000. San Diego, it's $188,000. So the income numbers are there, bullet pointed. The loan limits are limited here. So Glennis had mentioned the different loan limits, right? You can see, FHA is $477,000. Glennis, I think you mentioned that. It's $477,000, $250,000, but you see Orange and LA are $822,000. So big difference in Riverside and San Bernardino. And even San Diego's a little bit lower. Very rare. I don't do a lot of deals in San Diego County, but every once in a while I'll get that client who decides to look down south and, we're like, no, you can't go to 800,000 in that area. So this is a good little slide to have handy. And I'll make sure that that's, it's in the PowerPoint so you can pull that. So here's how the Cal HAFA works. Cal HAFA is a first loan. Then you do a second loan and a third loan. So you're actually taking out 3 loans when you do that program. And all 3 have to be repaid. So you get out first, a regular first mortgage. The second and third have to be paid when you sell the house. You do not make payments on those second and third loans monthly. They're just paid at closing. So you sell the house, you pay it back. You refinance it, you pay it back. And here's a quick little example of it and how it works, right? On a $450 purchase price, you're looking at about $27.90 per month. You have your 3.5% down, $15,750. You have closing costs, which you'll notice is a little bit higher on this program than on a normal FHA loan. So you have total cost of $32,625. you have your My Home, you have a ZIP program. So this is the second and the third loan that get paid off, right? That they get attached to the house. Those get applied to the 32. What's left is 45, basically $4,600. That $4,600 is what the client would be responsible for, right? So on a $450,000 house, they're basically only coming in with 1% to buy that house. So it's pretty darn good. That does not include appraisal or home inspection, but hey, that's really good. And again, your little rule of thumb here is every 100K is $620 a month. Any questions on this? Because I think this is a good one where people are like, oh, how does this all work?
This is good.
No, this is real good because I have potentially 3 people that would come under FHA.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I basically like didn't really know how to explain it to them.
Well, the good thing is that I'll send you the slides, and Theresa also records this. I know we have a lot of people who watch this, right? So
yeah.
we'll pass it over. And then the next thing is, what is a pre-approval, right? So a lot of people, we live in the world of the World Wide Web. So people will go on Google and run a calculator and say, I'm pre-approved. Well, that's not a real pre-approval, right? That's more of like a pre-qualification. A pre-approval is a complete loan application. It's where the lender runs your credit, where the lender reviews your income, your assets, reviews loan programs with you. So there's no surprises. They run the automated underwriting. They go over purchase price, loan amounts, right? I use my mortgage coach. We go over all of the numbers. That way you know exactly what you're getting into. Versus, some places will say, oh, well, just tell us what you make and we'll pre-approve you on that. That is not a pre-approval. That's a pre-qual. Like the lender should ask you for your whole life blood worth of stuff. If they don't, you are not really approved.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. Okay, so for the conventional loan, on a conventional loan, does that factor into the appraisal? Like, let's say if the house, the appraisal is lower than what the listing price is or the offer, then does the conventional loan still cover some of that cost? Like higher than the appraisal cost?
No, it does not. So anytime the appraisal doesn't come in at what you're buying it for, so if you're buying it for 600, it appraises at 590, right? 600 purchase price appraises at 590. Typically, your options are to negotiate the price to see if the seller will bring it down, or as a buyer, you have to make up that difference. Mm-hmm. So the difference between 590 and 600, you'd be coming out of pocket with that money. And that's the same with conventional FHA, VA. That's usually the case. Unless you're putting a really large down, then sometimes that doesn't factor in where, because you're putting so much down, doesn't matter, doesn't affect your loan to value. But in most cases, that's how you do it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the approval letter is important because it validates that you're ready to make an offer, right? It shows that you're motivated. Speed kills. Like we talked a lot about, you write an aggressive offer, you shorten your contingency periods. You have to be able to close quickly in this market because if a seller is looking at 2 offers, 3 offers, 4 offers, they want to know who's going to get them their money the fastest, right? So got to be able to close quick because at the end of the day, the seller just wants to sell their home. They want to know it's going to close. People do not want to get into escrow. People want to close escrow, right? So that's the number one thing, making sure you have a really strong pre-approval letter so that the seller knows that you're ready to close. And we fight the fight. We'll help you make sure you get your offer accepted. Any questions about pre-approvals? Always backtrack. How that works. my slides remind me this, my other screen's not telling me what's coming next. So I'm like thrown off here. All right. Just a quick little shout out. We are doing a class this week on credit. So if you want to learn more about credit, August 26th, it's on Zoom at 10 a.m. If you register, I'll email you the recording, even if you can't make it, if you have something else going on. But we'll go deeper into credit stuff because I think it's really important, whether as a buyer or as an agent, to know, all about credit. People are, people want to know about credit. So 26th, 10 a.m. should be fun. And that's all I got. I will tell you that if you're on the call and you do a new pre-approval, if we get your application, we get you pre-approved, that we will give you a credit towards closing costs for your appraisal. So if you do get pre-approved and you're on here and you watch it, let us know that you got referred by somebody on the M&M team, and we'll make sure that you do it. Can't do it later on though. You got to do it like soon. Can't be watching this video in December of 2025 and still get it. You got to be rewarded for being here. All right. Hopefully I kept you all awake, because I know mortgage stuff can be boring. But like I say, if you have questions, just reach out. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Doesn't matter where you're at in the process. Just ask.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great information. Let's see. Chantelli, did I say it right?
No, not at all.
Honestly.
I
Call her
tried.
Teal. Just say Teal.
Teal, there you go. You are almost finished. You're at the end of the road there. You're about to close and get your keys soon. Whoop, whoop.
Congratulations.
And
Thank
Nikita, hope to have you join in on the process. Were we able to answer all of your questions?
She might be busy with the baby.
Yes, you were. Thank you. It was some very valuable information. I appreciate it.
Yay.
Awesome, guys.
Yes. It was very, very helpful.
Yay. So glad you guys hung in there with us and stayed for the whole time. So with that being said, this is the end of our journey.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.